Hello, it's Wednesday, August 19, and today our scripture reading is Obadiah. The entire book is one chapter, so we're going to read all of Obadiah today. I really think it'd be wonderful if you'd read the book on your own, so I've got a link to Obadiah that I've posted along with this video if you want to read online. So Obadiah is a really short book. It seems to be written shortly after God's people go into exile. And Obadiah is a book of judgment on the nation of Edom. Edom was a nation of people that were neighbors to God's people, the Israelites. Now, the Israelites were descended from a man named Jacob, who's God changed his name to Israel. And the Edomites were descended from Jacob's brother Esau. So these nations are very closely related, but they were also very hostile enemies. And so what's going on in the book of Obadiah is God is declaring judgment on Edom. He says that when the Israelites, when God's people were taken into exile, the Edomites took part in this. They rejoiced. They took all the plunder they could. They helped to keep the Israelites contained and rejoiced as they were being sold off into slavery and that kind of thing. And what God says is, oh no, Edomites, your judgment is coming too. And so what we learn about God here is that God is judge of the whole world. God is in charge of and oversees everybody, not just his people, who at this time are the Israelites, but all the nations of the world. And so as God's people maybe are thinking, wow, how come we get judged? Look at these evil things that others have done. God says, no, I'm going to take care of them too. Don't worry about that. I'm in charge of the world. I'm in charge of making sure that wickedness doesn't flourish, that injustice is dealt with. Now, God may not deal with it when we'd like him to deal with it, but God deals with it in his time. And so we see that God cares about injustice, and God does something about it. And God stands up for his people. His people have been abused and slaughtered, and God won't allow that just to continue. He stands up for them. And so we see here that God brings judgment on those who oppose his people, those who seek to harm them, those who won't live by his commands. But we've seen elsewhere, like when we talked about the book of Jonah, that God also brings salvation to people from all nations, those who trust in him and turn from their sins to him. So it isn't as simple as saying God protects his people and God judges other nations. God saves people from all nations. It's not just the Israelites that he favors. But here we see God's control. We see God's concern for his people. And that gives hope today to persecuted Christians, that God sees their suffering, that God will deal with it, whether by turning those persecutors into Christians themselves or by eventually bringing judgment. So that's my thought with today's reading. If you've got thoughts or comments or questions on Obadiah, feel free to share them. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Have a great day.